Welcome back, tribe. I have an interesting bit of an update here. It says China changes divorce law, and he said wife will not get anything from husband's property. Husband and wife will get equal custody of children. In short, divorce industry shut down in China. And then he goes on to give more detail here. It says China has introduced a new divorce law. Why don't we have this in the States? With the aim of making marriage registration easier and divorce proceedings more challenging. This includes a 30-day cooling off period for couples to consider their decision before finalizing a divorce. The new law also shifts property division during divorce based on who paid for it, rather than equal division, potentially impacting women's property rights. Oh, wow. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Number 1, easier marriage, harder divorce. So marriage, the revised law aims to simplify the marriage registration process, removing regional restrictions that they had. And then divorce, you're now given a 30-day cooling off period, allowing couples to reconsider their decision to divorce. If either party changes their mind during this period, they can withdraw the divorce application. So far, this is all very reasonable and pragmatic, yeah? Here's the property division changes. Ownership based on payment. The new law dictates that whoever paid for a property generally retains ownership, even if the other spouse's name was added to the title after marriage. Check that one. And then we have a subsection that is gifts to the husband. Property gifted to the husband by his parents will not be considered shared matrimonial property and will remain his property after divorce. Look at that, man. That's progressive. That's feminism. That's what we need in the United States. You should copy paste this. All the feminists need to be pushing for this level of equality. And if they're not, they're bigots. They're hypocrites. It's all about female supremacy then. It was all a lie. So test them. Let's just see if they'll stand on their equitable outcomes, right? Number 3 is impact and controversy. So it says gender inequality concerns. Here's what the critics are arguing. That it will disproportionately affect women, making it harder for them to leave potentially abusive or unhappy marriages. Unhappy marriages, then figure out a way to be happy. The abusive part, sure. And of that, how many percentages of those exist? Then it has goal of promoting marriage and family. The law is intended to encourage marriage and family stability in the face of declining marriage rates and birth rates. And then has a social media backlash. The new law has drawn criticism on Chinese social media, with some expressing frustration about the increased difficulty to divorce and don't get married in the first place. And by the way, this law is intended to encourage marriage and family stability. You know why? Because men are opting out of marriage. Men don't want to get married, even in China. It's the similar issue that we're dealing with in the West. It's entitlement, demands through the roof, willingness to leave so-called death to do us part contracts just because unhappy instead of working with it, completely can destroy a man with court biases that favor women dramatically, take his house, take his kids, take his pension. She can even get your retirement. And you don't even have to be married for long. It could be just a couple of years that you're with this person and she's entitled through law. So all your shit in that man, it's fucking insane. It's the man that gets down on one knee and proposes. That's who they're trying to goad into getting married again. The man needs to start proposing because the men are cool. Fuck getting married. I'll just put a kid in her and I got my legacy and I'm good. You know, paying for a child, much cheaper than a divorce in the guy's mind. Why add more pain to that equation? That's what they're thinking. And it says the other aspects of divorce in China, mutual agreement. Couples can divorce by mutual agreement, requiring a written agreement signed by both parties and filed with the civil administration department. It says divorce can also be pursued through legal proceedings if a mutual agreement cannot be reached. So that would be the litigation side of this. And grounds for divorce in China, they'll consider factors such as adultery, domestic violence. So there you go. If you're getting abused, you could leave. Abandonment and persistent bad habits when deciding whether to grant a divorce. There you go. Child custody. Both parents retain custody of their children after divorce unless there are extenuating circumstances. So split down the middle, 50-50 by default. No more fighting for custody. You each get equal time. Very pragmatic, right? Solves a lot of the biases that were there for women. Spousal maintenance. There's generally no spousal maintenance awarded in China after divorce unless agreed upon by the parties. Wow, look at that. So China's ahead of us on that too. Alimony, eh? And then, of course, the next one is, why are American women upset with this new law? And this dude says, how long the marriage lasted based on that give only that percent amount of husband's wealth to the wife. If the marriage lasts 1 year, only 1% of the husband's wealth. Jesus. But best is any marriage that does not last for a minimum of 5 years, nothing from husband's wealth should be given to the wife. Yeah, if you got married and divorced within 5 years, it's a joke anyway. And honestly, it should be 10 years. Let's just say, because we'll go with the assumption that you have a kid and that kid will be 10, which then they'll be better suited to dealing with the divorced household, right? When the parents are not together, going from house to house. So 10 years, you should be 10 years before. You got to put in a good decade in order to have access to each other's assets, period. And then this one says most divorces in America are filed by the wife. 80%. It says between 70 and 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Among college-educated women, that number jumps to 90%. But even though women overwhelmingly are the ones who want the divorce, it says men somehow benefit disproportionately. Do you see? Look. And this is from a home that says /frequently asked questions are 80% of divorces filed by the wife. And of course, after saying that 80%, somehow men disproportionately benefit. Unbelievable. And if somehow men disproportionately benefit, doesn't that mean that they were in shitty marriages? Like, is that what it's saying? This one said, a woman says, big loss for abused women. And then you see there's still blue pill people that don't understand the truth. This one says, you can do this today with a prenup. No, you can't. Prenups get tossed out of court all the time for, circumstances out of your control. She can argue that she was under duress. You would need to spend like thousands of dollars to have 2 lawyers present, one for you, one for her. Got to get that shit notarized in public. Got to do it in front of the court. You got to show that you weren't under duress. And even then, certain districts will not recognize prenups. Yeah, baby. It's called wholeflation. Look at that. Look at that arrow. We have gone vertical, parabolic. Beautiful. Look at that. Get your mugs. Links in the description below. Appreciate it. Everybody's been grabbing a ton of those. It says in 1949, Mao banned concubines. In 2025, Xi bans gold diggers. Some traditions die hard. So this sounds like equality in its true sense. Where's the gap in this that other nations don't implement it? And check this out. I would refuse to, a woman writes this. Of course, dude. Look at just the differing of opinions is insane. I would also encourage other women not to marry. I have successful women friends who make more than their husbands. Of course you do. It's better to have a boyfriend / companion than get trapped in a marriage. I wouldn't want him to get my assets. You see how I wouldn't want him to get my assets. You're making an argument for men right here, basically. I'm actually encouraging my adult son and daughter not to marry. If they truly want to get married, then prenup is required for both kids. I think the whole idea of marriage is outdated. This is coming from someone who's been married for 27 years. If I had to redo, I probably wouldn't have married, so she wanted to sleep around. Women only need sperm to have kids. This tells you, no husband required. This tells you what she thinks of her husband. He was just a sperm bank and the walking wallet. That's it. Do you see how this guy's being treated? Fuck, man, that's crazy. This guy says, I know it's China, but still based. Look at what the women are saying. Look, so a guy says this should happen everywhere in the world and the rate of divorce would drop drastically. A woman, the first thing she thinks about, what do you mean by husband's property? Are they both not the owners of the property? You see? Women are pragmatic, bro. They're looking at you like assets. What can I get? How do I benefit? That's fucking wild. And another guy says, in short, if you're a traditional female who stays at home and raises children, you get 0 if there is a divorce. Okay? If you're a traditional female who stays at home and raises the children, why are you getting divorced? Why would you be unhappy? Why would you be one of the 90% of women that currently just get a divorce willy-nilly? Flawed logic. Even if your husband places your name on the property. If you are the man, you get all the property and won't have to pay a dime. What could go wrong? Nothing. You don't get divorced willy-nilly anymore. Now men would actually like to get married and provide for their women and not feel like it's a trap. He said divorce settlement is against gender equality. Unless you labored with him together to make that money, you should not be entitled to anything. Child custody support should cover expenses the family usually made pre-divorce and should be paid directly to a state agency. And this guy says they did this because due to the fact China has many more men than young women. What was happening was scamming was high. Multiple divorces to get assets was high. People were planning elaborate marriage scams. There you go. And this guy makes another equally low IQ comment. For the men sharing, this means fewer women are going to be housewives because their husbands could divorce them at any moment and leave them with nothing. They're going to need to keep working just in case. So you mean the women that weren't fit for marriage anyways and fit to be a housewife because the only reason she was going to do such a thing was only because she could take your money and take your assets? You mean a real traditional wife wouldn't be thinking about that except kids and like legacy and family and building with her husband? The kind of woman you're trying to make a housewife is the very woman that doesn't want to be a housewife and she's thinking how to diddle up all your assets post-divorce. Real traditional women would never think of this way anyways. Real traditional women aren't counting your assets and all the dollars you're making. Can you provide a good enough life so I could stay home and do my feminine duties? Children, turn the house into a home, stuff like that. They have a completely different set of expectations and needs in a relationship. What this is only going to do is remove the huge swath of bullshit marriages from women that do not deserve to be wives and men that are getting preyed upon that didn't know any better. That's it. Now we'll get real marriage rates with people that are actually interested in each other without a party having ulterior motives or settling. People are going to stop settling as much now, which is great. Be with who you're supposed to be, with who you actually want to be. Don't use that man for his wallet. Don't take advantage of him. Don't have the office Chad's kids and make your beta husband pay for it. Don't string all these men along just because you found a nice little simp without a spine and he works in a little cubicle. He's a software engineer and he makes like $500,000 a year and he says yes to everything. And don't fucking use that man. He worked way too hard to get there. He's got no experience with women. And you're going to take advantage of that after spreading your legs for half the fucking city. Bro, that's a joke. That's crazy. And this is why they're actually mad. This is real equality here. Truly. This is as even as it's going to get, man. And they'll never make this argument in the West. I would be shocked if feminists came out and said, we want, just like China, equal custody of children, no more women's preferential treatment. We don't want the man to get anything from the woman's side, like her property or alimony, and then reverse that also. And the man will get nothing. And the woman will both get nothing. All assets accrued during a marriage will then be split, depending on how much of each was paid for, or depends on how long. If you're together for over 10 years, then the other party that wasn't working will get more, of course. But all these like 5-year marriages, 2-year marriages, 1-year marriages, all that shit, no, you get nothing. That's not enough to be life-changing. 10 plus years, a decade, okay, sure. After 5 years, okay, sure. That could be a significant change in your life. Fine. We could talk about how to divvy that up. But not like we have it in the West. That shit's crazy, dude. The fact that they can dig into your pension after being only married for a few short years, alimony up the ass that you're going to be paying, child support up the ass that you're going to be paying, and losing properties, that's crazy. That's like saying they can't get jobs, they make zero money, and they're 100% dependent on you. It's false. Most of them are college educated. You could get any job a man could get, often quicker because DEI. And so you could bounce back from a quote divorce. And just like they were saying, that woman was saying, well, most of my friends earn more than their husbands. So a lot of women are out earning men now. But why do they still get preferential treatment in the courts if that's the case? Isn't that crazy? That's all we're arguing for. Full equality. Let's make the progressive ideal fully realized. Split down the middle, everything. It will be impossible for you to take the kids from him. It will be impossible for you to wreck his wallet. It will be impossible for you to take his assets. And it should be. Unless you were truly married for like 20, 30, 40 years. Okay, cool story. Yeah, that's a whole life worth of, living together. But come on, man. You getting wrecked for everything in 2 years because you got married to somebody for 3 years, made a mistake. They took the mask off and they showed who they were. And now your whole life's in jeopardy. It's fucking madness. That's not equality. That's supremacy. That's corruption. Anyways. Thoughts on what you guys think about China's new marriage laws, and if you'd like to see them instituted here in the United States, I'd be curious to see. Split down the middle, 50-50. And what do you think would happen to marriage rates? What's your opinion? That's a good one. What's your opinion? What side of the aisle are you on? Do you think marriage rates would absolutely tumble? Nobody gets married anymore? What do you think that does to the birth rate? Do you think the birth rate will tumble? Nobody has kids anymore? Or will there be more kids now because some of the penalties are now gone, right? Will men get down on one knee and marry much more now because the risk is so much less? What do you guys think? I'd be curious to read some of these comments. As usual, boys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you on the next one.